In two separate interviews, Mitch McConnell mentioned the possibility of allowing states to go bankrupt, something that New York's governor, Andrew Cuomo, did not take kindly. In fact, I want to give you Mitch McConnell's statement, and then we're going to tell you or show you what Governor Cuomo had to say in response. So, in an interview with Fox News, Mitch McConnell said the following: "We're not interested in solving their, meaning the states, pension problems for them. We're not interested in rescuing them from bad decisions they've made in the past. We're not going to let them take advantage of this pandemic to solve a lot of problems that they created for themselves and bad decisions they made in the past." So there is a fight in Congress in order to provide more funding for states in the middle of this pandemic for obvious reasons. And Mitch McConnell, after signing off on massive bailouts for corporations, all of a sudden is pretending like he's worried about the debt, right? And so he refuses to fund the states, and he's pointing to pensions as the reason why he refuses to offer help, and he thinks that they should just be able to go bankrupt. The salt that you're about to see from Governor Cuomo right now is something that should be applauded. We're critical of him when he deserves the criticism. He should be applauded when he does something right or says something right, and this is a good example of that. Let's take a look.
The self-proclaimed Grim Reaper, Senator McConnell, for another second. He represents the state of Kentucky, okay? When it comes to fairness, New York State puts much more money into the federal pot than it takes out, okay? At the end of the year, we put in to that federal pot $116 billion more than we take out. Okay? His state, the state of Kentucky, takes out $148 billion more than they put in. Okay? So he's a federal legislator. He's distributing the federal pot of money. New York puts in more money to the federal pot than it takes out. His state takes out more than it puts in. Senator McConnell, who's getting bailed out here? It's your state that is living on the money that we generate. Your state is getting bailed out, not my state.
And he's right. I'll give you some more numbers in just a minute. I love that video because it's something that I've been like railing about on the show for such a long time. You know, for all the negative commentary you hear about coastal states, California and New York, you know, from right wingers, they never stop to think about how much of our tax revenue goes toward helping their states and how little California and New York takes in federal assistance when it comes to certain social safety net programs. And again, I'll give you those numbers in just a minute. But Cenk, I wanted you to jump in.
Yeah, so Cuomo's a corporate Democrat. I got a lot of issues with him on substance and policy. But he has one thing that a lot of other corporate Democrats don't have, which is he's a good communicator. So Pelosi and Schumer are a train wreck. Nobody's interested in hearing what they have to say. They're mealy-mouthed, they're ineffective and weak. Cuomo at least communicates the message in a very easy to understand way and makes an argument that is hard to refute. So, look, man, I want a progressive so bad, but at least a guy like Cuomo would eviscerate Donald Trump. And so that's the upside. And it's important that you have a messenger like that. And, you know, and talking about our policy differences is for another day. And it's an important day. And we should do that. But I also like that he punches back. So in this case, Anna's right. We've talked about it on the show a million times. The red states are welfare queens. They live off of us in the blue states. And they attack blue states all the time. Texas, Massachusetts, and San Francisco. They're not real Americans. They even had the temerity to say that Ted Cruz, for example, that New Yorkers are not real Americans. Even though New York got attacked on 9/11. And besides which, are we really having this conversation? New York is the most iconic American city there is. But they insult us like that all the time, and no one ever says a word. And the media doesn't chide them. Everybody goes along with it. Okay, well, why not fight back? Bunch of welfare queens in the red states constantly milking off of us, living off of us. Well, why don't you actually pull your own weight for a change, Mitch McConnell? Mitch, please.
Yeah, exactly. So there are a few different studies done to show, where the federal tax revenue is coming from and which states are the most dependent on federal money in order to help their constituents with government assistance. So I'll give you one example. Pew Charitable Trust did a study recently, and here's what they found. They found that nearly 40% of Kentucky's state budget is federal funding from Washington, D.C., making the state the fourth most dependent on outside aid to pay for services it provides for its citizens. So that's pretty damning. Also, if you look at which states pay the most in federal taxes, it's unsurprising, but California and New York are at the very top. So California, for instance, it's $234.5 billion. For New York, it's $140.5 billion. And then, oh, look at that, Kentucky, $12.66 billion, right? And then you take a
Kentucky.
And then you go and look at the states that take in the most for government assistance, financial assistance. So you have coming in at number 5, West Virginia, coming in at number 4, as I mentioned, Kentucky, 3 is Indiana, 2 is South Carolina, and 1 is North Dakota.
Hey, look at that. Those are all the reddest states you can find. Bunch of moochers. Why don't you go get a job in all those states, okay? Stop living off of the rest of us who actually work for a living.
No, you're right. You're right. But like at the same time, so are we a country or not? Because, those are people. In those red states, I might disagree with them 100% on their political views, but they need to feed themselves. They need to feed their families. And I have no problem with my tax revenue going to our peers, going to our fellow Americans, going to our fellow undocumented individuals who also contribute to this country, to keep them alive, to keep them healthy and safe. That's important to me, right? What I don't get is the unbelievable divisive nature of Republican lawmakers like Mitch McConnell. So are we a country or not? Because if we're not a country, and if you think that it's okay to just allow states to go bankrupt in the middle of this crisis, in the middle of this pandemic, then why are we paying federal taxes? I mean, I pay a hell of a lot of taxes when it comes to, what the state demands of me. So why don't I just pay my state taxes and give you a giant middle finger, federal government?
Yeah.
If you're not going to help us out when we need you, that's your only real purpose, then what's the point?
So today Cuomo said, make my day. Go ahead, pass the bill saying that the state should go bankrupt. The reason he says that is because, of course, it's terrible policy. What would happen is it would set a panic in the financial markets. Oh, my God, the American government in at least these giant states are not good on their word. So you should not accept the full faith and credit of different parts of the American government. That would be disastrous for the U.S. dollar, for the economy overall. It would be a financial Armageddon. Cuomo knows that. McConnell knows that. He's bluffing. So that's why Cuomo says, yeah, go ahead, do it. Let's see what happens. Of course he's not going to do it. And of course it's outrageous. It's a way of trying to frame the blue states as people who deserved coronavirus, who, hey, Trump didn't mangle the response. It was the blue state governors as a way of deflecting attention. And you think I'd say these things about the red states if they didn't start this fight? Of course not. In reality, I love Kentucky, and I've been all over this country, and I love all those red states, and we want to protect the people that live in those states, and we want to fight for the people that live in those states. But I'm not going to let your ignorant, stupid Republican leaders go around insulting the rest of us. You punch us, we punch back. So, sweet hobo Alabama, go get a job, okay? And if you're going to take our money, you know what we'd appreciate? Thank you. Just say thank you. Don't you have any manners?
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.